Lotanna marched into the palace. "Where is she?" he demanded. Another warrior simply pointed towards a small dark hut made of strong bamboo, a cage. Lotanna strode over and looked inside, and there she was, his strong, vibrant Oolido, curled up on the ground like a frightened animal. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. When she saw him, she scrambled to the bars, clutching them with her fingers. "Lotanna, Lotanna, please, you have to save me. I don't want to die," she cried. Lotanna reached through the bars and held her shaking hands. He tried to speak, but no words came out. Hot tears blurred his vision, and he blinked them away angrily. He, the mighty warrior of Udi, the second in command, was completely powerless to save the woman he loved. Long time ago, there was a kingdom so big that it would take a person 3 days and 3 nights on a horse to travel through its entire 15 villages. A kingdom so fierce and formidable in battle that other surrounding towns and villages dared not stand against it. A kingdom so rich, both in natural resources and external wealth, gotten from other kings who seek alliance and protection. But above all, the great kingdom of Udi was peaceful. It was ruled by the sovereign king Ajasa of Udi, a mighty ruler, loved and feared at the same time. King Ajasa was the definition of a fearless and mighty ruler, a warrior inside out. Battles have been fought and won under his rule. Big villages have been conquered. In fact, he is the reason why no one dared to stand against Udi. King Ajasa the brave and fearless had built strong soldiers, men that have become even more brave and fearless. King Ajasa loved his people and would do everything to protect them. But then, there was just one problem. King Ajasa, in all his might, had not a single son to take over the throne when he was no more. He had taken 7 wives in total, but for some reason unknown to man, they all bore him beautiful daughters. This single problem worried the king day and night for many years. But as time progressed, he had come to accept his fate. What being without a son meant for him was that when he was no more, the mantle of leadership would leave his family for the first time in over 100 years and fall on the next family in line. King Ajasa had already accepted his fate, but he wanted to make sure that his reign would be remembered in Udi for many generations to come after him. The next family in line to the throne was the Omenkas family. The family is usually not chosen in any particular order. It is always decided by the gods. The family, however, is to choose a representative and present it before the gods. If he be pure in heart and deemed worthy, he gains approval of the gods. But if not, he is rejected and the mantle is immediately moved to the next family in line. This means that any family that is chosen has to be very careful as to who they pick to represent them. The next family in line to the throne is always known. However, a representative cannot be chosen and declared publicly until the reigning king has taken his last breath. Regardless, the Omenkas family already had in mind who they would choose to be their representative. Lotanna, the son of Ago, a member of the Omenka kindred. Lotanna was by all standards a very handsome young man, strong, resilient, second in command of the king's warriors, respected by the villagers, both men and women alike. Oh, the maidens, they loved him. Why would they not? His family dreamed, no, they envisioned that he would someday marry one of King Ajasa's beautiful daughters. What prestige they hoped it would bring to their family name. Unfortunately, Lotanna had a mind of his own. Despite all his strength, just like every strong man, he had one weakness: love. Lotanna was hopelessly and helplessly in love with Oolido, the beautiful daughter of the late Ugochukwu. Now that we are here, let's talk about Oolido. Oolido, just like her name implies, was just as beautiful as refined gold. She was originally born into a wealthy family. Her father was a very wealthy young farmer who had worked twice as hard as his brothers to get every single thing he owned. Ugochukwu fell in love with the beautiful Nene, and quickly they formed a strong bond. The young couple soon got married, and in no time they started expecting their first child. Oolido was born a very peaceful child, and her birth brought the young couple so much joy. Unfortunately, their joy did not last. Ugochukwu very mysteriously fell ill. It was a surprise to all because he was still so young and vibrant. Medicine men came from different parts of Udi, but no one was able to detect what exactly was going on with him. Those who were close to him suspected that the activities of witchcraft was at play, but no one had any proof of anything, or even anyone to point accusing fingers at. At that time, Oolido was just 3 months old. Young Nene was so devastated. She cried day and night and prayed constantly for her loving husband to recover. However, Ugochukwu never recovered. He died, leaving behind his young wife and the now 4-month-old Oolido. His death was a big blow to Nene. But the bigger blow came when Ugochukwu's family took all that Ugochukwu owned: his farmlands, his large storage barns, his numerous lands, every single thing he owned. Their excuse was that Nene did not have a son. Hence, they would take charge of their brother's wealth in order to manage it well for him. Nene suffered so much to feed herself and her baby. Ugochukwu's family did not even care if they lived or died. When things became too tough and unbearable for her, her family came to take their daughter back. Nene had remained in her father's compound ever since. Years have passed, and she refused to take another husband. No one could take the place of her Ugochukwu. She focused on raising Oolido the best way she could. And now, Oolido has now grown into a beautiful, vibrant young maiden. The one maiden who had captured the heart of Lotanna, the great warrior of Udi. There was not one person in their village who did not know about Oolido and Lotanna. Some maidens envied her. They wished that they were the ones walking right beside Lotanna. Oolido too was not without male attention. In fact, there was Dede, a handsome young man who loved Oolido with everything within him, and he did not fail to show her how much he loved her. And no matter how many times Oolido turned him down, he still pursued her relentlessly. His friends thought he was foolish, Leave that girl alone. She obviously does not want you, one would say. What makes you think Oolido will leave Lotanna and follow you? Another would say. And then they would laugh till their sides hurt. But they persisted. As long as Oolido had not married Lotanna, then he still had a chance. But in all of this, Lotanna's family were not pleased with the way things were going. Remember that they wanted Lotanna to marry one of King Ajasa's daughters, preferably Princess Adaeze, the first daughter, for their own selfish interests. So, at first, they thought Lotanna's relationship with Oolido was something that would fade with time, but they were wrong. For as time passed, the bond they shared only became stronger. They started to become worried. If they let Lotanna be with Oolido, then all their plans would go to the mud. One day, the elders of the family decided to call Lotanna's attention to the pressing issue at hand. Lotanna, Mazi Edozie being the eldest, began. I know you are wondering why we have called you here. There is an urgent matter that we want to discuss with you. This matter is very serious, and the prosperity of this family depends on it. Lotanna frowned, looking confused. My fathers, he said, I don't understand. I am still a child to you all. How then is it that you want to discuss urgent matters that concerns the prosperity of our family with me? Mazi Edozie smiled. Lotanna, my son, it is because it concerns you. In fact, you are responsible for the prosperity of this family. How? Lotanna asked. Mazi Nduka cleared his throat. What your uncle Edozie is trying to say is that we all are aware that King Ajasa does not have a son. And when he dies, the mantle of leadership falls upon this our great family. Lotanna nodded, not still sure where the conversation was going. And so, Mazi Nduka continued, we have decided that since you are still young and vibrant, strong and fearless in battle, you, Lotanna, will be the one to represent our family. Lotanna stood up sharply. My fathers, I am loyal to the king as long as he breathes, and I know that it is forbidden to discuss such matters when the king still lives. Sit down, Mazi Edozie said calmly. We are not discussing that matter yet. We just mentioned it so that you will understand what we are about to tell you. Lotanna sat again. Mazi Nduka continued. Lotanna, we have decided that you should marry Princess Adaeze. Lotanna looked up sharply. You have decided what? Wait, what makes you think that it is your duty to decide a wife for me? Sit down, one of his uncles barked. As long as it is going to be for the good of our family, then it is our duty to decide a wife for you. Lotanna laughed sarcastically. This does not even make sense. How will marrying Princess Adaeze be for the good of our family? How? Mazi Nduka said. Now you are asking the right question. He moved closer to Lotanna. The king has no son to inherit all that he owns. By marrying Princess Adaeze, you will be in control of majority of the royal wealth, and then when you ascend the throne as the chosen king of Udi, you will have even more power to control more of his wealth since you are married to his firstborn child. How do you see it? Lotanna shook his head. This is nothing but pure greed, and I do not wish to be a part of it. Wait, did you people even stop to think if Adaeze would even be interested in a marriage with me? The men laughed. Ha! That is not even a question, one of his uncles said. What maiden in Udi will reject a suitor like you? Meanwhile, King Ajasa already knows that the crown is moving to this family, and he will see this union as an opportunity to keep his family in royalty. We would be doing him a favor. Lotanna took a deep breath. My fathers, I do not know if the gods will accept me as the next king of Udi. But one thing I know for sure is that I will never, ever marry Princess Adaeze or any of the other princesses. I have found a woman I love, and it is Oolido. When I'm ready to settle down, it will be her. Ta! Uchibugiono! Shut up! Mazi Edozie barked. Who is Oolido? And what benefits will she bring us? Absolutely nothing. With all due respect, Lotanna interrupted. I, Lotanna, the son of Ago, the great warrior of Udi, will not be a party to your greedy schemes. And I repeat, I will not marry Princess Adaeze or any of the other princesses. He stood up to leave, but his uncles, seeing how serious he was, had to calm down. Lotanna, wait. Calm down. Ago, Lotanna's father said. Don't be too rash. Okay, what if you marry Princess Adaeze first? Then after a few months, you marry your Oolido. After all, a man can marry as many wives as he wishes. Think about it, my son. Lotanna shook his head. There is nothing to think about, father. In fact, I will pretend that this meeting did not happen. That was how Lotanna left his family elders and walked away. But these men were desperate, and they say that desperate situations calls for desperate measures. These men started plotting, but this time it was not how to make Lotanna do what they wanted. It was how to permanently get Oolido out of the picture. Getting rid of Oolido was not as easy as they thought it would be. They could not just take her life. It was a taboo, and it could taint their family name for life. Then, one day, luck smiled upon them. Ago himself came up with what he thought was a brilliant idea. That day at the market, he saw Dede standing by the stall where Oolido sold hand-woven baskets. He was saying something to her and smiling sheepishly like some love-struck teenager. Oolido did not seem very interested in what he was saying, but it did not seem to faze Dede. He kept going on and on. There and then, Ago's plan started to form in his head, and he had the perfect tool to carry out his plans. Dede. As soon as he reached home that day, he called for a meeting with two of the family elders. The gods have answered our prayers, he began. I found the perfect way to eliminate Oolido for good. The elders were moved by his excitement. Come, Ago, this one you are excited. this your plan better be good, oh. Mazi Ndoka said. Mazi Ndoka, this plan will work. I feel it in my spirit. And if it works, Lotanna will never look at that girl again. He took a deep breath. I'm just coming from the market and guess what I saw? I saw Dede, Mazi Oke's son, by Oolido's stall. And the way he was smiling like a puppy, one could see that he is in love with that girl. See, love is powerful. You and I know that Oolido only has eyes for Lotanna. The only way Dede can get her is if he takes her by force. The men frowned. What do you mean by take her by force? Mazi Dozie asked. Ago laughed. It is very simple. Dede will find a way to lure Oolido to his house. And I will provide a concoction that will put her to sleep. All he needs to do is to put it into the water he would offer her. When she starts drifting off to sleep, he would lead her into his hut and lay with her. I will make sure Lotanna catches them. And bam! That relationship is over. Oolido will be forced to now marry Dede to cover her shame. The men laughed heartily. Ah, Ago, you are such an intelligent man, Mazi Ndoka exclaimed. Wait, Mazi Dozie frowned. What if Dede refuses to do it? He cannot refuse. Ah, that man I saw is totally in love with Oolido. And one thing I know is that a man in love with a woman who loves another man will do anything to win her over. And just like that, they all agreed to Ago's plan. It was now time to approach Dede with the life-changing opportunity to get what his heart desired. Ago, a man on a mission, personally set out to see Dede the very next day in the part of his father's big compound, which has now been allocated to him. Dede was surprised to see Ago. It was not every day an elder visited a young man. Ah, Mazi Ago, I greet you, Dede said, bowing respectfully. I hope that there's no problem. This one you suddenly decided to pay me a visit. Am I safe? Ago laughed heartily as he sat on the chair provided by Dede. Dede, you ask too many questions. Of course you are safe. It's just that I have a proposition for you. Something that will change your life. An answer to your prayers. Dede looked confused. Mazi, I don't understand. You are speaking in riddles. Ago moved closer. It's about Oolido. I know you love her. I saw the way you were drooling over her at the market yesterday like a puppy. Panic flashed in Dede's eyes. Mazi, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I know she belongs to your son Lotanna. I promise to not go near her again. See, if you see me near her again, let Amadioha strike me down. Ah, no. Ago exclaimed. As a matter of fact, I'm happy that you love her. And I'm here to help you win her over. To help you get her to be yours forever. Confusion crossed Dede's features again. Mazi, I'm confused. What about your son, Lotanna? Forget about Lotanna. Yes, he is my son. But he knows that he cannot marry Oolido. We have already prepared a maiden for him to marry. But he has remained stubborn. So I want to help you so that you too can help me. He finished with a mischievous smile. Dede seemed to think for a while. Then He looked at Ago again. So, Mazi Ago, what is this plan you have that will get Oolido to be mine forever? Ago looked left and then right, just to make sure that the walls did not have ears. Then he moved closer to Dede and whispered his plan to him. For a long time, Dede did not answer. He felt a cold knot in his belly. The idea made his hands shake. He did not want to hurt Oolido. Yes, he loved her. But this was going too far. It would hurt her too deeply. He shook his head. Mazi, I'm not sure that I can do this. It would hurt Oolido too much. She may never be able to forgive me. Don't be a coward, Ago scolded. You are a man, Dede, and a real man must fight for what he wants, especially when such an opportunity presents itself. There was a storm quietly raging inside Dede's heart. He knew that what he was about to do was wrong, but then his desperation got the better of him, and so he agreed. Ago left Dede's home a very happy and satisfied man. His plans were looking like they were going to work perfectly. But that night, after Ago left, Dede could not sleep. He tossed and turned on his bed all night long. Ago's plan played over and over again in his mind. Yes, the plan would force Oolido to be with him, but it would not force her to love him. It would only make her hate him forever. He wanted to win her heart, not break it. He loved her too much to hurt her that way. He wanted her to love him just as much as he loved her. And so as the first light of dawn touched the sky, Dede made his decision. He would not do it. He could not do it. Oolido did not deserve such a wicked thing. Very early that same morning, he walked quickly to Ago's compound, his heart pounding. He found Ago outside his hut, preparing for the day. Ago was furious when he heard what Dede had to say. What did you just say? Ago asked again, smiling, just to be sure of what he was hearing. Dede took a deep breath. I will not do it, Mazi. I cannot. This plan will destroy Oolido's happiness. I want her to be with me because she wants to, not to force her, to deceive her in that manner. I want her to be happy, even if she's not with me. I will not jeopardize that. Ago's smile vanished. His face darkened with fury. You foolish boy. You are a coward. It is not cowardice, Mazi, Dede insisted. It is respect. I love Oolido, but of what use is that love to me if she never loves me back? If she looks at me every day and hates me? You are not a man, Ago spat. It is your cowardice that has made Oolido see you as less of a man. You are weak, Dede. You cannot fight for what you want. No wonder she chooses my son over you. You are nothing but a scared little boy. Ago's words were sharp and cruel. Dede stood there feeling so small and ashamed. But unknown to them, there was someone listening with keen interest. Lotanna. He was just returning from the bushes nearby, where he had gone to ease himself, when he heard his father's raised voice, and had stopped to listen. As he heard the things coming out of his father's mouth, his blood ran cold. When he had heard enough, he stepped out from the shadows, his face a storm of anger and disappointment. Father, Lotanna's voice was low, but it shook with emotion. What is this I hear? Ago spun round, his eyes wide with shock and panic. Lotanna, that is not it. This is not what it looks like. Lotanna, calm down. I have heard everything, and I know exactly what it sounds like. Lotanna interrupted. A plan to trick Oolido, to ruin her life, and you call him a coward because he has refused to come down to your level. Lotanna turned to Dede, who immediately turned and took to his heels. The fire in Lotanna's eyes looked hot enough to cook a large pot of beans, and he had no intention of being caught in it. Running was the safest thing for him to do. Lotanna turned back to his father, his eyes now filled with deep sadness. I always knew you wanted me to marry Princess Adaeze for your own gain, but I never thought you would sink this low. You want to go as far as destroying Oolido's life. All because of what? What has she done to deserve such wickedness? Ago was speechless, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. This greed of yours, Lotanna continued. This hunger for power and wealth, it is a sickness. And I tell you now, it will not bring our family prosperity. It will only lead to your downfall. Stop it! Ago fired back angrily. Can't you see that we are doing this for your own good? You have nothing to gain by marrying that low-life, poverty-stricken Oolido. She is nothing and worth nothing. But look at Adaeze. Imagine the kind of power and wealth you will be able to control. Lotanna smiled bitterly. I am very sure that if Oolido's father were alive, people like you would practically lick his feet to gain favor. You see her as worthless because wicked men who think like you ripped her of everything her father worked hard to achieve. Maybe if you had worked hard enough to acquire your own wealth, you will not be here thinking of whose wealth you want to control. Without another word, Lotanna turned his back on his father and left him standing there with his mouth wide open. Ago stood there for what seemed like ages, still stunned that his son would speak to him in that manner. He could not understand Lotanna's obsession with a nobody like Oolido. The girl was beautiful, there was no doubt about that. But the Omenkas had a bigger plan. A plan that would make their family's name a force to reckon with. And Lotanna was their golden ticket to making it happen. Ago smiled to himself. This plan may have failed, but they were definitely going to come up with a better plan. And this time, Oolido would not escape it. Oolido was totally oblivious of what was going on behind her back. The lovebirds continued being lovebirds. Lotanna did not mention anything to her, neither did Dede. In fact, after that incident, Dede kept a safe distance from her. But did it save Oolido from what was coming to her? Did it save her from the impending danger? No. She had no idea what was coming for her.